It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome. He is Gary McNamara. I'm Eric Harley. As we move into a Wednesday, Gary, how are you?
Oh, my God. Just amazing. Yesterday was a day that when I woke up, because after the show, I go home, I go to... Oh, by the way, good morning, everybody. Great that you're here, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada.
Niceties. We're the station that cares.
Yes,
blah, blah, blah.
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
Whatever.
Oh.
Don't forget your... whatever you're supposed to wear today.
We care, don't hate. But yesterday was one of those days when I woke up after my nap, because I sleep twice a day, and I don't know what time it was, but I was only up a couple of minutes, and there I go to my phone, and the way it is every day, and this is the best part about this job, because people say, well, geez, I mean, you guys do 5 hours, and it's overnight. You know, how do you do it? I mean, how long does it take you to do your show prep? Yesterday, about 11 seconds. I looked at the phone, and it was like, oh, okay. I started texting Eric. Now, it's something that how often do we text each other about something that has to do about a subject on the show?
Well, after I blocked you, almost never.
Maybe 3 times a year, maybe once every 4 months, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. People are probably shocked about that, but we really don't. I mean, we really don't.
Well, we sleep different times, too.
Yeah, unless something comes up, that's of note.
But it was, and we'll play it coming up later on, but it was Mark Halprin, well-known Democrat liberal, who has been infuriating the Democrats because he's been saying it's bad for Harris. It's bad for Harris, the polling that we're seeing.
Right.
And, you had said yesterday, the day before, I can't remember what day it was, you just said, boy, if things keep going the way it is because you've been looking at the things like the early voting and everything else.
Right.
I've been hesitant to jump aboard. Mm-hmm. I've been hesitant, and it's not because what you have said is not credible or what Halprin said is not credible. It's more of just being a basketball player and wearing dirty socks 7 nights in a row because you don't want to jinx anything. But when he came out and said the way the early voting is going right now, if this is any indication,
if it holds,
if this is an indication what's going to happen, Trump wins.
Yeah,
and it was like, whoa.
We'll know it on Election Day.
Yeah, well, exactly. That was it. Yeah, we'll know it on Election Day. And you said that yesterday. You said he may not need Pennsylvania or Wisconsin's results.
Arizona.
Yeah. Okay, Pennsylvania or Arizona's results.
He actually gets to 270 and the reason we bring those two states up is because they both have mentioned, officials from each of those states have mentioned that they don't expect to have the results that night, which is stupid. And I thought, well, it's by design. We kind of hashed that out yesterday. It is definitely by design. They're doing that on purpose. And it's probably all going to be for naught, whatever little agenda kick they're on. It's going to be, if the polling holds, if the trending in the polling holds and keeps building in that direction, if it's also not accurate in Trump's favor, these polls that are even trending more toward him, I think some are, I think a couple of those areas are underpolled. If that is the case, Election Day, it will be it. Now, Halprin's, point on early voting, and one of the things I love to watch is early voting. Now, quite often, it is not the incumbent party turnout that you're watching. they're not as eager to vote as the challenger. And in this case, technically, it's Trump, even though he's kind of a co-incumbent. And that's, people are really chomping at the bit to get it done, almost as if we could move up Inauguration Day. And don't we wish? If he wins.
Inaugurate. Oh, yeah.
If you could move that up,
right.
Well, he already won. Let's go ahead and get it done. But that's kind of, people are eager to implement that change. It's what you watch for. And it's typical that the challenging party will be more active in early voting. That the challenging party's voter base will be more active.
Well,
but
Democrats have led either way massively on early voting.
This year, you're saying?
No, in the past. That's one of the differences. It doesn't matter whether they're the incumbent or not.
Right. Well,
Democrats
they certainly have during the Trump years. And that's the point I'm getting at, is that they were eager to vote against Trump. Anything to get out and vote against Trump. That's not happening this year, at least yet.
But even in 2016, the Democrats had a huge advantage.
And he was running in 2016.
But he wasn't an incumbent.
I didn't say he was.
Oh, okay.
They were eager to vote for him, and or vote against him, and that's been the standout. And that goes to something else that I've been saying, and that is the toxicity. The Democrats already know this, I'm convinced, that the drive to vote against Donald Trump, their one thing they really could bet on in 2016 and 2020. It didn't quite work out in 2016, as we all know. But in 2020, they weren't voting for Joe Biden. They were voting against Donald Trump. When you heard Kamala Harris say, when she was asked the question about separating herself from Joe Biden, and she said, well, the one thing I can tell you is I'm not Donald Trump. And I had been actually thinking that and said that on the air. The only thing she has going for her as a Democrat, the only thing she can promote is she's not Donald Trump. And that's basically a nothing now. And it's not a driver. And you're seeing that right now in early voting. So all of the elements that have been in play in recent cycles are not there right now. Well, if that doesn't change, and I suspect it won't, because the ground game is almost nil for the Democrats right now, because the energy for the ground game, the fuel for the ground game is the passion for the candidate, the passion against the other party, the other candidate, and neither of those are in place. And that right now, there's a strong indicator that I'm right on that. We'll see if it holds.
We talk about the toxicity is gone from Trump.
Mm-hmm.
We thought, the first indication was when Harris reversed her positions on everything.
Mm-hmm.
And everything, and these were the major talking points and things, the issues that Trump has promoted for years. And that's when we came up with the idea of Kamega.
Mm-hmm.
And, way back when, and drove one woman nuts. You guys mentioned it, what? And we had only done it for a day, but we kept doing it in every single Kamega. This woman was just crazy. It's like, wow, our job is done. But when she did that, because the first thing was, you've taken all Donald Trump's positions. The fact that they knew that was coming. The campaign had to know that was coming after they did that. Well, you're taking all of Donald Trump's major positions that you called evil and racist and everything else. At that point, you knew that they knew that the toxicity of Trump has gone. Now, they just co-opted the issues, and then that has become a whole puddle of mush. Now, people have no idea where she stands. Yesterday, people were saying, Where does she stand on fracking now? We have no idea. It's like, oh no, she's not going to ban fracking, but we're not going to expand fossil fuels at all. Well, then you are going to ban fracking. You have to. You have to,
right?
Because it's going to continue to expand and expand and expand, and any idiot knows that. And
right.
but she just took the issues, and the media said, but these are Donald Trump's issues that you called misogynist, racist, Hitler-like, Mussolini, Lenin, Mao, Pol Pot. Can we just continue on that stupid narrative?
Mm-hmm.
But then you had this week, in the last couple of days, you've got senators, Democratic senators, using Trump's name in the ad. There was a story yesterday that 4 senators who voted to impeach Trump are now using his name in their ads in a positive way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, everything is lining up right now. If you think about it, they're those senators that are on the brink. They're obviously, fighting for their political careers here. But also, I think there are other Democrats that are likely looking at this going, we got to prepare to actually work with Trump, or we've got to prepare as to how we're going to deal with Trump. And when you saw it in 2016, when he won in 2016, during the interim period, we're going to do everything we can to get him out of office. And they kept their promise.
Yeah, they did.
And now it's quite it's mind-blowing to see this. When you look at everything that's in place right now, there's nothing else no other conclusion that you can come to, including the early voting and how it's going and what the trends are. There's really no other conclusion than the toxicity is all but gone. And when you have, all of these things in place, then you ask yourself, well, my gosh, how underpolled is Trump?
That's a legitimate question.
I don't know. It might not be at all. But it has the potential when you look at everything that's in play right now. The one thing, think about this. They loved him as a celebrity. When he decided to run for office, he was the devil and Pol Pot. And all of these, elements now are gone, and it's only been 8 years. It is mind-blowing to look at. It's also very encouraging if it holds. Because what it shows, too, is that the American people are done making choices based on rock stars, quite possibly identity politics. And again, even if that were true, if those elements were in place, that might only be temporary. We have to be careful about how far, we expect this to go. But at some point, the American voter is done with the BS, at least on the things that are blatant reality, massive items that you can't ignore, that they're dealing with every day. If you want to say, I'm going to lower your taxes, and they know it's BS, they might let you get away with that. When you say, look, the economy's fine, the border is secure, all of these things, and it's not, and it's affecting people every single day. Crime isn't on the rise. Oh, wait, the FBI. Oh, wait, yeah, well, it kind of is on the rise. I mean, if you mean going up, is that what you meant by on the rise? Those are things that they look at, and they're, as I pointed out, these are fundamental elements of feeling secure as a human. Your children, well, the liberal transgender movement is coming after him. And so are the liberals. So they're part of that. The border. I mean, our nation's border isn't secure. Your spending power. You can't feed your family or keep a roof over your head. You can't afford to do. Now you're working 2 jobs. You still can't afford to do it. These are things that are deeply disconcerting to individuals because it goes against our survival instinct. Every one of them. And combined, it's pretty massive. And I'm really, really into right now watching these dailies on the early voting. And I can't wait for 2 weeks from yesterday because I'd love to see where we are as a nation, how all of this truly has an effect.
And two things happened yesterday. You saw the story that the intelligence agencies had come out and said Russia has tried to interfere in the election by promoting conspiracy theories against Walz.
Yeah. Right.
And then the CBS led yesterday with that story that the family says and the lawyer said is completely false about that American soldier that was killed.
Right.
And they said Trump said he'd pay for the funeral. And then when he got the bill said, what? We're not going to pay. I'm not going to pay this to bury a, blanking Mexican. All false. Never happened.
Never happened.
The family said never happened. Trump never paid for the funeral. The Army did. This is the stuff that's going on now. And CBS led with it yesterday.
Yeah.
The Atlantic doing a hit piece job that the family, the lawyers, everybody says is completely false.
Right.
This is what's going to happen over the next couple of weeks.
We're beyond scorched earth.
Yep. 866-90 Red Eye.
This report is brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology, is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance. As the seasons change, so does truck maintenance. Cold weather can affect everything from your batteries and air brake system to tire inflation and fuel lines. Here's a maintenance tip to help make sure your rig is ready when winter comes knocking. When water and moisture build in your air brake system in the dead of winter, it will almost certainly freeze and turn to ice, which can damage valves, air dryers, and other air system components. Be sure to inspect your system for any air leaks and to confirm the system is receiving a clear air supply. Check and drain your air tanks daily to keep water, contaminants, and corrosion at bay. Find a professional service center near you to learn more about winterizing your truck or to have your air brake system inspected today.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90 Red Eye on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up following the bottom of the hour, Senate Democrats target McDonald's. I'm not making this up. Wait till you hear this story. Going after McDonald's now.
Of course.
You knew it.
There must be an investigation.
For price gouging.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Oh, and Obama yesterday. We'll get to Obama. It's amazing because he seems to be campaigning more than she is. Interesting, though. Fascinating, some of the interviews with blacks on Obama. Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
By the way, on the whole McDonald's thing, I think it's fascinating that the Democrats complained that Trump didn't wash his hands, and then all of a sudden, deep state, there's an E. coli outbreak linked to McDonald's. You saw that story. Yeah.
Not that same McDonald's, though.
No, not the same McDonald's.
Right.
But I think we might have to have an investigation as to what the deep state did there, their involvement.
listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, not Gary McNamara. This is not a made-up story.
Okay.
Senate Democrats attacked McDonald's yesterday for price gouging while it continues to grow profits.
Mm-hmm.
The letter, written by Ron Wyden, Bob Casey, and Elizabeth Warren, underscores the success of former President Donald Trump's campaign stop on Sunday when he worked a McDonald's drive-thru window in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
In a letter addressed to the McDonald's chief executive officer, the senators sought information about how the fast food restaurant's increases in fast food prices over the last several years and seeking information regarding McDonald's pricing decisions. This is how, if you don't agree with the Democrats, they will go after you.
They're coming after you.
Right. There's no indication that McDonald's is price gouging.
Well,
none.
It's, and, you know, you put it out there. They did the shrinkflation thing. You know, shrinkflation, there's fewer chips in the bag. And now Frito-Lay's coming back with actually putting more chips in the bag. That actually was a result of competition because they were losing some of the market share to store brands. But but it doesn't matter. The Democrats will come after you.
Yep.
You want to make a profit in this world? No. Elizabeth Warren has something to say about that. She's always going to have something to say about that. You can't be successful. And sorry, Bernie. Millionaires and billionaires, not just billionaires. You better decide which house you want to keep. Which car you want to keep.
All right, you ready for this?
All right.
Obama in the comment the other day when he basically went after black men,
Mm-hmm.
you know, calling them misogynists, you know, that they don't want to vote for women.
Right.
Lecturing black men.
Yeah.
And we'll get to his statement that he said yesterday about, I have no idea. Why is all this division happening?
You're right. I don't know. Why do you keep talking?
But we'll get to that. But this is the comment the other day that he made. Because seriously, the media is paying more attention to Obama than they are Harris.
Yeah.
But it's not making
Liz Cheney is getting more headlines than Harris. But she has something in common with Harris that in recent years neither one of them has won an election. But it's and by the way, it's the condescending attitude that Obama has when he's saying it.
Now, this is amazing because both these audio cuts I'm going to play. One is a focus group. And the first guy you will hear talking is a black man. And this is on MSNBC. This is the thing. This is on MSNBC. They can't even, they do these things where they go out and start talking to people, and they don't vet them all.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're political activists. And what they should be doing as political activists is you vet everybody. And every black person who comes in must be absolutely for Harris.
Right.
That hasn't happened a bunch of times over the last couple of months on MSNBC.
Right.
And that's the problem that they have. Listen to this here. Now, this is a reporter asking this question about Obama and what Obama had to say about black men.
And I just wonder for anybody who heard that, like what they thought of that.
I was deeply offended. And it felt like a moment where it's like, you N-words better get in line and do what we say. And it felt like him as the czar of the Democratic Party coming down to say, go get these N-words in line. And the general tone of it was disgusting. It was abhorrent. I don't respect it. I didn't like nothing about it. And Kamala, 2 days after that, is like, we love our black men. We have programs and things that we're rolling out for them, and she rolled out policy. Good cop, bad cop.
This is something that really Obama, for me, has become known for. This condescending. When he was talking to small business, you didn't build that. Those things. At some point, I think you've made enough money, and then in this case, that black men are misogynists, and it's always from the perspective that it doesn't apply to him, right? That's how it comes off. None of this applies to me. I'm not a misogynist. The problem is you guys. The problem is all of you. And let me tell you what your problem is.
Oh my God.
It's just, it really is the epitome of arrogance. And you have to keep in mind the rock star that they made him out to be in 2008 and the euphoria that remember the late night comedians didn't do an Obama joke for over a year. Oh, there's nothing funny about him. Yeah, there is.
Let's play then this cut next. Since we're talking about Obama, let's play the cut from yesterday.
All right.
Here we go.
I don't understand how we got so toxic and just so divided and so bitter. And I get why sometimes people just don't want to pay attention to it. And we all have friends like that. We have family members who just like, it's all a circus out there.
Why is it so toxic? You're
part of it.
Who is the one, as we've talked about before, who was the one who led the charge to blame cops before the evidence was in? Barack Obama.
Yep. The police acted stupidly. His words.
Right. Who was the one by doing that trying to stir up racial hatred? Barack Obama.
Yep.
Who was the one who initiated the executive order back in 2011 to mandate DEI across all federal departments?
That's Obama.
That was Obama.
Who's the one that talked about the people of Pennsylvania clinging to their God and guns? Barack Obama.
Which administration started the insanity of the radical transgender movement by having the education and the Justice Department work to change the original meaning of woman in Title IX, which now has been a debacle, the misogyny that Obama started. Obama started the incredible women hatred misogyny in the United States. He is the one during his administration, the last year of his administration, that worked to put men in women's bathrooms, men in women's sports.
And if family members are complaining about a circus, you're the star clown. He's the key to so much of it. Because he felt like he had, and Democrats went right along with him, he had the key to the world forever. They had won forever. And then, again, during those years, the advent of social media, and the rise of social media, they thought they were winning the conversation. They were changing words, changing the definition of words. They were changing the language. They were looking to control a massive chunk of the economy and change how people talk. What does that sound like? Marxism. Yeah. This is exactly who he is. If there's division, if there's toxicity, then you're the captain.
And then as we continue, because we played the MSNBC talking to black men about Obama, well, this is MSNBC talking to black Philadelphia women about why they're rejecting Kamala. Now, remember, this was on MSNBC.
Mm-hmm.
All right. We're going to play this audio cut here. Thanks. Okay, here we go.
What are your feelings, and let me start with the women here, about Kamala Harris?
She's a woman of color. I'm not putting her down because of that, and I'm not putting her down because she's a woman. I'm not a feminist, so I'm sorry. But at the end of the day, I don't think that she has the personality. I don't think that she has what it takes to go up against Putin and go up against these other presidents that are built for this. I don't want to be scared because my president is scared. I want my president to feel secure and manly and about it.
We brought up gender, right? Like, do you think it matters that she's a woman and people aren't comfortable having a woman in a top leadership role?
No, I don't think that, because most men, they love their mothers. They love their wives. So as a woman, most men, they respect the woman. But she just don't have the qualification or the education to really run America, because she don't have the experience. She don't understand our struggles. And for me to believe you for another 4 years, you're crazy.
Right.
Like, you're crazy. You're saying the same thing that you said 4 years ago.
So the fact that she's the vice president
That's
to
just
you
the
is
bottom line.
You're like, you've been here, you've had a chance.
Yes. Well, for me, the very first time I ever heard the name Kamala Harris, it was in association to locking up parents for truancy. That was the first time I ever heard of her name. And I really didn't understand how this person claims to be a black woman, but yet she's locking up black women and black men and separating families.
This is the thing that is, Trump talks about this a lot. He says, you know, Kamala Harris became black when it was convenient.
Right.
Yeah.
Can you talk to me about, do you agree with him on that? Do you feel like she's wearing her blackness?
Absolutely. She's sworn into when she sworn to the Senate, it was as the first Indian American.
Thank you.
Which is, it's fine. We don't care.
We all know she's not black. Let's understand that. We are all clear of that. But my point of view, and like I told you earlier, she's already been there.
Wow.
Well, you know, it is every concern and more. I think that stands out for me is I want somebody who's going to be, basically the thought was, I want somebody in that office who's going to be unafraid.
You know,
and they don't believe it's, you know, stand up to Putin and that kind of thing. But honestly, being able to do that job as commander-in-chief is a big deal to people. You would think in today's age, maybe that falls away, right? That it's like, we're not going to war. That's not important. And if you weren't thinking about where we are now, you put everything into perspective, though, that's the kind of fear that people have in their minds. National security is, again, one of those things that becomes, if you believe it's at risk, it's a disconcerting feeling, part of that unsettling feeling that goes along with a broken border, the lack of spending power, the liberal transgender movement coming after your kids, all these things that get inside the four walls of your home and create real fear.
What I got out of that had nothing to do with the issues.
Mm-hmm.
It was no identity politics.
Yep.
When I first saw that, I got goosebumps. Why? The one thing, since I've been a radio talk show host and realized the identity politics was being thrown out, what I want in this country from every single person is autonomy.
Mm-hmm.
The autonomy that I have my own opinions, and my opinions are not based on my ethnicity, my skin color, my hair color, my weight, my height, that none of that matters. I am an autonomous individual, and I make the decision based on what I think. Even if I disagree with you, you make that decision based on what you think and not because you're a part of a group. That's what I heard there. That has been one of my number one goals since I became a radio talk show host, is to try to just help a little bit move the nation away from the racism of identity politics.
And
that's what
like,
you got there.
At least for right now, it looks like that's happening.
Yeah. I hope it means we're going in the right direction.
I hope it's lasting. I hope it actually is the case for real. Yeah.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. I'm sorry, just still can't get over when I saw that headline. Democrats target McDonald's for price gouging.
Yeah. You knew it was coming.
Like, oh my
you knew
God.
it was coming, and you saw the Elon Musk needs to be investigated on the on the money that he's donating and everything else, and of course that's where they are. It is about, for them, it really is about weaponizing everything they can against you in a big way. And you don't have to be an Elon Musk or Donald Trump. They'll come after you if you're a parent that has a concern at a school board meeting. We've seen it happen. This is who these Democrats are today. And hopefully more and more people are waking up to it.
Top of the Hour News is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. I have to tell you, my day is so entertaining. It really, really is. I wake up in the morning, and the most wonderful thing is when you follow almost everybody, you get all the different audio cuts of the day on X now. It's really a wonderful resource. But I don't stop laughing all day with some of the responses to the, not just what the left is saying, but some of the responses to the left. For example, this one, and this is a couple of days ago when Liz Cheney was with Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
And what's her name? Shriver.
Maria Shriver.
Maria Shriver.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, that was excellent at the beginning when someone says, will we be able to ask questions? No, all the questions have been pre-selected. It's like, oh my God. I mean, that's just been viral. It's like, here we go again. But here's Liz Cheney. I mean, this is really, really bad. Here we go. This is Liz Cheney. I'm just going to play it. Here we go.
Okay.
I will just end this by saying, and I also know, because I have spent time with Vice President Harris, because I have come to understand what she believes about how she will govern, that she will be a president for all Americans, that she's committed to listening and committed to having viewpoints, some of which, come from different ends of the political spectrum. And if you think about how you conduct, your life outside of politics, how we all conduct our everyday lives, those are the kinds of people that you trust. Those are the kinds of people you can work with. Like if you wouldn't hire somebody to babysit your kids, like you shouldn't make that guy the president of the United States. I mean, that's pretty basic.
Well, now that's a horrible political analysis of anything. Nobody's looking for a president to babysit your kids.
No.
But Molly Hemingway's response. I just can't stop laughing all day. Politicians are not babysitters and should not be judged as such. But I'd happily leave mine with Trump or Vance, and I do it a million times before I left them with Harris, Walz, or Liz Cheney. They'd end up with their genitalia removed or dead in an unnecessary war.
Oh man. Yeah.
But the best one was after she said that, and somebody had just the picture, and it was Harris, and it was Maria Shriver.
Right.
And it said, interesting they're talking about babysitters when both the men they married had affairs with their nannies.
Don't go in there. There's a bomb in there. That's
It's like, oh my God.
That's a problem. You walked right into that one, didn't you?
Oh my God. I mean, it's just.
By the way, what a horrible late season trade for the Democrats.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, the Republicans get Tulsi Gabbard
And by the way, in case people don't know, she joined the Republican Party.
Yes, officially.
Yes.
So the Republicans get Tulsi Gabbard, who has been a true public servant to the core in many ways, and the Democrats get both Cheneys. Ew. and of the two, Dick Cheney is not the one that looks most miserable.
Oh.
How did that happen?
She is not.
If I had been in a coma, and I woke up in 2024, okay, Gary, what? So you're saying both of them, Liz and Dick Cheney? Really? No, Liz Cheney, and I started to notice this during the whole fake committee, January 6th committee thing. She really looks horrible. The look on her face is what I mean. I don't mean her natural looks, the way she appears. The look on her face, she looks like she's about to start crying at any moment. And I thought to myself, how do you live day to day?
I know.
Because she really does. She carries it around on her face, the disdain she has for Trump. If it came down to it, Trump watching my grandkids, not only would I do it, would I allow it? My gosh, I'd be bragging about it. Because, you've seen him around families, you've seen him around, I look at the experience of watching him around families and seeing him around his own grandkids and everything else. I'm thinking, my gosh, he's probably got a giant candy machine somewhere. It's a kid's dream.
My thing is, I'd have him, even though my great nephew now is 16, I can't believe he's that old. I know, my great nephew, 16.
That's crazy.
And I just to go off for a second because I was telling you this one thing.
No, this is a great story.
It is really a great story. My great nephew, 16 years old, and playing for his basketball team and everything else, and he transferred to a new school, and he transferred to a new school for the reason that he made the decision on his own. There were people that had, different opinions in the family about whether he should, change schools or not, but he wanted to change schools. And it's all worked out great. But when he started with the new school, he had more friends over there, and he wanted to go on a basketball team that didn't, not one of those. He went to a school where the basketball team cherry picks people from all over the place. It's not like they brought in a bunch of new people, and he just said, nope, I want to go over here. I know if I go over here, I can be a leader of the team, which is what he wants to be. I mean, he wants to sit there and wants to make an impact. Well, so he gets over there, and he's got it's 3 or 4 study halls a day. And it's just such a great story. And I'm like, to heck with basketball. This is the best story ever. And so
that's crazy, by the way. Not one study hall a day. He has multiple.
Yeah, there's multiple study halls a day. I'm not sure what the number is. I've heard 3 and 4, but and you just go in there and study hall. When I had study hall, we just screwed off. You took the spitballs, put them in the straws, and you spin them.
Exactly.
Yeah, you really didn't study.
Right.
But what he did was he gets tutoring. He decided to go for all the tutoring, and the whole concept is, God, I love this, and God, I wish I had his brain when I was that age. His whole thing was, I want to get the extra help, and I get all my homework done.
Before he leaves school.
Before I leave school. Well, the other people started harassing him a little bit. Oh, you're taking extra. Yeah, because I don't have any homework. Now, all the people that were insulting him, some members of his team, are all now doing the exact same thing because they went, wow, what a great thing.
They have all their free time.
If you go to the tutoring, you get all your homework done before you leave school. So when you leave school, it's all done. You leave it all there. You talk about a proud great uncle. I mean, forget about basketball, as I told you, and I'm serious about it. As a fanatic that I was growing up, that's all I wanted to do was play basketball.
Mm-hmm.
Forget about that. The fact that he did that is just the greatest thing.
No, it's great because what is it? What is that? We can, in fact, go right back to your dad.
Yeah,
you do the job.
Yeah,
you do the work because when you know, my wife grew up on a small ranch, and it was do the job, get up and do the job, and do it right, do it early, and you have the rest of the day if you need it, right? Which often would be more work, or sometimes by noon it might be, hey, we're going to sit down and have lunch and watch a Western, whatever. But you do the work and you have that out of the way. And then also time management, because your great nephew's probably looking at that going, okay, I've got the school hours are what the school hours are. I don't control that. What I can control is what I get done during those hours, which will also help me control what I'm doing in the non-school hours.
Yeah, exactly.
That's actually it's very encouraging.
That's actually when you brought that up, get everything done beginning of the day. My father, that's another lesson I got from my father, which he said, when you wake up, get everything you need to get done. Everything you need to get done ASAP. When you wake up because you're fresh, you're not tired, whatever you need to get done for the day, get it done early.
Right.
And I'll never forget that I was laid off from one job. And I always, being in this business to begin with, there's no security.
Right.
There comes a time when you get to this level, for example, when you sign contracts and you have agents and things like that, and there is more security.
Yeah, there's more. It's not ultimate, but it is more.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, in our mind, you and I think the same way. We talked about this. In our mind, we believe that we could be fired next week.
Right.
We're not going to be, but that's the thought process I've always had. In order to survive in this business where getting let go is like, well, no big deal, you're gone. Whatever, especially early on in your career. Well,
according to our production staff, it could happen any minute.
Yeah. Well, I got blown out of this one station. All right.
Yeah.
And they regretted it later on. And I will say this. They now carry our show proudly. But when when that happened, when it's over, when a job is over, I don't sit there. I don't think anything like, I can't believe they did it. It's done. I know I don't waste any energy. And this comes from the lesson of my father. I was not disciplined on my own as a kid or young adult to think this. This was my father pounding it.
It's the example again, and the lessons.
And the example my father, I got from my father when he got laid off,
right?
And what he did,
right?
Because getting laid off is can be a huge disastrous, mental blankety blank. I mean, it'll fry your mind.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember when the one particular one happened, that it's when I fully bought into that. Said, Matt, don't. And people are like, well, the general manager of the station says something bad, you should sue. I don't care. I'm a talk radio host. If somebody, any publicity is good. It's no big deal. I'm not going to waste my time on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was up every day, and this is back before the digital age. So you had to you actually had to put together, CDs or cassettes and send them out. And every single day I was done. I was to the post office when they opened up like 7 or 8 o'clock. I get up and do it. And then I would sit there and I would go to the driving range and do something else. Come back at noon, 1 o'clock, 2 in the afternoon, see if there's anything left, get it all done, get to the post office, get everything done, make my phone calls. And then I'd go play basketball from like 4 till 7. I came home. I was so tired. I'd go to sleep, wake up, and repeat it. I'll never forget after that was done. And I ended up getting a great job out of it. And relatively soon, and got a lot of interviews and everything else. And it was really one of the biggest breaks of my career at that particular point. My late mother said to me, she said, your father and I have been talking about you, that during that time, a couple of months when you were off, there was no worry. You were as happy as you could be. And I said, because I followed what Dad said. Yeah. And because once you do it, my father said, once you get it all done, once it's all done, you don't worry because you've done everything that you can do. And once you realize that you've done everything that you can do, there's no reason to worry. Go have fun a couple of hours, work out, do whatever. Instead of saying, okay, oh, woe is me, I don't know what I'm going to do. Give me another cocktail. Whatever. I mean, there's two choices.
You can have a cocktail while you're working out.
Well, that's right. I was looking for a job remote. But talking about my great nephew, it's like, well, yeah, Trump could have babysat him when he was younger. He would have taken him out golfing more than I've had the opportunity to do so. Right. But yeah, that was just dumb. Liz Cheney, that's just done.
Well, it really is, and it again is on full display, her disdain for Trump. It comes down to one thing. This whole thing, well, she's going to govern for all of the people. Oh, my gosh. I'm sorry. Did your dad write that for you?
And when she said...
Because that's so old school political playbook stuff.
And when she said she has ideas from both ends of the political spectrum, that was an absolute lie, and Liz Cheney knows it. And she got pounded for all of a sudden evolving on abortion.
Right.
Saw that, right?
Yep.
It's just like, whoa.
Yeah.
She has a reasonable plan for abortion.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Oh, my God. I mean, we told you she wasn't a conservative.
No, she's not.
Yeah, and we said it during the January 6th, because if you do not allow, if you go into even a political process and do not allow cross-examination of the witnesses and evidence, and you're a part of that, you're not a conservative, because a conservative believes in due process.
Yep.
If you don't believe in due process, you're not a conservative.
That's absolutely
spot on. It's like the one guy on the Texas death row that they've said, and when I saw the case, I went, well, yeah, you got to review this. You got to review this. You can't put this guy to death. There's too many questions here, and Republicans got aboard. I saw yesterday someone said, well, how come Republicans are aboard? They're for the death penalty. And it's like, got nothing to do with being for the death penalty. It's is there evidence or is there a question? If there's a question, no, you don't do it.
Exactly.
Why? Because conservatives believe in due process.
Right.
So Liz Cheney's just a disaster.
She really is.
We got a great audio cut coming up next. Jon Stewart going after Walz.
Oh, man.
Liz Cheney thing going, because we said they're not talking about it, but we said, why the hell are they interviewing her? Why are they making that, 2 weeks before an election, why are they making this a huge issue of bringing Liz Cheney aboard?
Right.
Jon Stewart says the exact same thing that we did. All coming up, 866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by FPPF, Fuel Power Max.
Smart owner-operators make every single week as profitable as possible. One trip is not enough time to be considered profitable or unprofitable, and an entire month may be too much time to manage. 1 week is the right amount of time to deal with efficiently. To do so, look at the advantages and disadvantages of every day of the week. Match trip length to the optimum day of the week. Plan to deliver on the day you have the best opportunity of getting a load. Your personal weekly plan will vary depending on the weekly delivery flow cycle of your region, typical length of haul, personal requirements, and other factors. What's important is to have a specific weekly plan that helps you be successful. Owner-Operator Business 101 is provided by Overdrive's Partners in Business program. Go to overdriveonline.com to the Partners in Business section of the website for more details on this and many other topics. Brought to you by Shell Rotella, with advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. So here is Walz on Jon Stewart. All right, here we go. Okay.
The Cheney thing, do we really have to do that?
Look, it goes broader than that. Look, Bernie Sanders, Dick Cheney, Taylor Swift.
No.
That one.
The
shooting?
No.
Having the Cheneys on board?
No. You can't Dick Cheney or Taylor Swift. No.
We're a big tent. We're a big tent.
What country did Taylor Swift get us to invade? No.
We had said it the other day that why are they doing this with Liz Cheney? The left hates this.
Yeah. And then she brings Dick Cheney along with her.
Right. And that's where Jon Stewart recognized it. He goes, this is what the left is actually thinking. Thank you, Jon Stewart, for verifying what we have said over the last couple of days, that the left isn't happy with the whole Liz Cheney. It didn't make any sense.
No, it didn't.
On our website, RedEyeRadioShow.com. Show info with stations, podcasts, and more. Red Eye Radio.
And he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Download our Red Eye Radio app today, and you can listen when and where you choose. Because when we're off the air, just minutes after we're off the air, the podcast is up. The podcast is a repeat of our show.
That's right.
So you can hear it. We love all of our listeners listening in the future. Thank you.
For all of our billions of fans who say, I hope this never ends. It never does.
Wow. I'm just thinking if Trump wins, what's going to happen? When you said that it never ends, I'm like, wow, what's going to happen if Trump? Well, either way. But right now, all the indicators show that right now Trump would win.
There are stronger indicators that it is going to be a decisive win, and that's not just our analysis. There are others doing the same analysis. I didn't know. Well, I think everybody's doing the analysis, but I didn't see where, like you mentioned at the top of the show, Halprin and others doing the analysis of where we are at the moment. October brings things together. And now we're now way past mid-October, and we're in the home stretch inside of 2 weeks now.
Well, it was funny because they in 2016 you saw the breaking the last 3 weeks.
Yeah,
is where you started. But still, I think it was yesterday. Let me see if I have it. Let me just quickly go back because I want to play Halprin here. But I'm opening up 2,700 windows here.
Right.
No, sorry, I don't want to upgrade to premium. That's
how about no
profile now. When you look at it, 2016, and this was we're the 23rd, so 2 days ago, Clinton was up by 6.5 points.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, that's Wisconsin. Clinton nationally in 2016. And this is a real clear politics average, which, again, we're not using that because, for example, they don't have Trafalgar in there, right?
Right.
Do they use Rasmussen?
I don't know.
But Clinton was up by 6.2 points, and Harris is up by 1. Now, that doesn't include all of the most accurate polls from 2020. And so you look at that and you say, whoa. And so it was really in that time when the polls started breaking, but they started seeing it about 3 weeks beforehand. And one of the points that was being made yesterday, and this is by Democrat analysts, that we're looking at it and saying, okay, it's breaking. It's breaking a little bit sooner than it did, for example, in 2016. The movement is happening sooner, and it's happened sooner. And I looked at you when we were talking about that earlier off the air, and I said, well, yeah, that's because Trump is in the people's mind an incumbent because they've seen what he's done.
Mm-hmm.
So the break, I would surmise that the break, if they're analyzing is happening earlier, it's because people are relatively sure about what they'll get from Trump.
Yeah.
Where in 2016, they didn't know.
Right.
But they just didn't want Hillary.
Right.
And so but Trump had no experiences as president at that point. Now we know he did, and they can make that exact judgment, which really is such a rare thing that happens in American presidential politics.
Right.
But here's Halprin yesterday. This is when I woke up and saw this, and this is what made me call you, or not call you, text you yesterday.
Yeah.
And just go, oh, wow, you may be right. But here's Mark Halprin, again, a Democrat liberal, former ABC political director, and just infuriating Democrats over the last couple of weeks by him saying, here's what's going on in the polls, and they don't want to hear it.
Right.
Good morning, everybody. Let's lead with the lead, as they say in journalism. If the early vote numbers stay the way they are, and that's a big if, we'll almost certainly know before Election Day who's going to win the election. We're going to talk a lot about that. The reasons why Democrats might be underperforming, the prospect that they'll recover. But again, make no mistake, if these numbers hold up in the states where we can understand even partially what the data is like, we'll know that Donald Trump's going to be president on Election Day. So we're going to talk about that. But
there you go.
Yeah, he first says before Election Day, and then he says on Election Day. But the point being, because I've been watching not just early voting, but watching the electoral map and how it comes together. And right now, and it's, look, there's so many things to consider, so many different variables in this. But the Electoral College map for 24 at RCP, at Real Clear Politics, no toss-up states. So what that means is whoever has even the slightest lead in that state, in the no toss-up state map, that state basically goes that direction. So it assumes here that Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin go to Trump, Nevada goes to Trump, Arizona goes to Trump. Well, we've heard from Arizona and Pennsylvania saying, and we've been talking about this, officials saying, well, we're likely not going to have the results that night. There's no reason for that, but they clearly have an agenda. And so we say, all right, and I started thinking, all right, but could the election be called that night? Could Election Day be over regardless of the fact that Pennsylvania and Arizona haven't come in? And the answer is yes. If you look at the Electoral College no toss-up states map, right now it has Trump and Vance at 312. Well, you take out the combined 30 for Arizona. Arizona has 11. Pennsylvania has 18. So that's 29. Then you easily get to that 270 mark. Trump, Vance get to that 270 mark without having Pennsylvania and Arizona finishing their tallies. That assumes a lot. That assumes that Michigan comes in for Trump, Wisconsin comes in, that Nevada comes in. But then you take a look at Nevada. And Nevada, we're talking about breaking it really starts to break for Trump here in these polls, but Nevada's breaking for Trump now. And it's funny because I was talking a couple of weeks ago to Jim Verdi. He's the producer for Dan Bongino. And I was up here one morning before the Bongino show, and we were talking, and Jim says, no, look, watch Nevada, because I was talking Pennsylvania and the Great Lakes states and everything else. And he says, and Nevada. And he brings that up, and which is a very solid point. Nevada may be what Pennsylvania was in 2016. And it's, again, we're still just under 2 weeks out, but everything is trending in that direction. If it holds, then you add to it what Halprin was talking about with early voting, something else I've been watching, and that is the trend for early voting. The past two election cycles, the Trump toxicity has been driving Democrats out to early voting. The Trump derangement syndrome, the anti-Trump vote has been a big driver the last two election cycles, and it's not now for Democrats, at least so far. And Halprin brings up, something we're careful to do. These are, again, it's if things hold, if this trend stays, all of these trends stay in this momentum in this direction, then it looks like a very solid election win for Donald Trump. That's a big if. There's a huge asterisk there, maybe a number of them, because there are so many variables in that equation. But you and I have always looked at the trends, not in one particular poll. But now we see the battleground states all trending that direction. And it's happening with across different pollsters, right?
Right.
That's a trend. You could say, okay, it's going this way with this pollster and that way. No, it's moving across all of these pollsters, which accounts for different methodology, which accounts for different states. And we look at it, because when they do the national thing, we think, or when they lump the battleground states even into one category as a group. No, you got to look at it as state by state. What's happening? Well, you see that common thread of that movement, that momentum going Trump's way across different pollsters and across different states, especially those battleground states, which are key. And combined with the trend right now in early voting, again, if it holds, it's his base, it's people voting Republican. We're not seeing any sign of the anti-Trump vote. Again, past two election cycles, Democrats have been, quite often, as I was mentioning earlier, it's typical, it's not always, but it's typical for the anti-incumbent voter to get out there early. Well, over the last two election cycles, it's really been the anti-Trump voter in terms of Democrats. That's been a big driver for Democrats. It was in 2016 and in 2020 in early voting. It's not the case this year. And you would think, in fact, that you would see that trend if that toxicity for Trump were still in play. The anti-Trump vote were still in play. And it doesn't appear to be the case. We'll see where it ends up. But right now, all indicators show that it's not a big driver. It's what I suspected has been going on with the Democratic Party, which ultimately had Nancy calling Biden to step down and then them getting Harris, and then now the buyer's remorse that we're seeing because they didn't see a change in what they were seeing in those internals. I'm convinced they're seeing voter apathy be a big problem. And then we played some of the voters earlier who are not on board for Kamala Harris, and they're talking as to why they're not on board, and it goes across a number of different reasons, including the whole identity politics thing, as you bring up. But you add all these, everything is moving in the same direction. You and I have been very careful in all the years we've been doing this. I don't like words like red wave or, whatever, because I can't tell you. How many midterms have you and I been through and said, oh, it's going to be a huge red wave? It wasn't even a splash. It was a tsunami warning that never came to fruition.
Well, that's what I learned early on as a talk show host from 1994. You cannot predict what's going to happen.
Exactly.
You can, again, everything that I see as of right now shows a Trump victory. I can safely say that based on what we see in the numbers, the direction overall, as we call it, the momentum of all the polls, whether they show Harris slightly leading or Trump slightly leading, it's the momentum and where it's going. And on the pollsters that were the most accurate in 2020, they're the pollsters that were most accurate, the top 3 and 4, all show Trump winning, show him dominating in the battleground states. And that's about the best you can do. I mean, other than that, you got to have a crystal ball in front of you.
Exactly. And based on how far off Quinnipiac was in the past,
8 points.
It could be a landslide because in some cases they have him leading, and we joked about that, but I don't like using the words landslide. I would love, by the way, to see a landslide. Don't get me wrong, in Trump's favor, because it would be a strong indicator as to where we are as a nation. I would love to see that, but we don't use that ahead of time because we don't know. But the trend, all the momentum right now is in Trump's favor.
No, that is
if it holds.
Yeah, that's you and I have been going day by day.
Yep.
And I don't know really since Trump did the black journalists that there has been a bad day for Trump.
Right. Yeah.
Every day it's still her on the defensive.
Yep.
Trump isn't on the defensive about anything.
Right.
And that's how you win elections.
Yep.
866-90 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Still, there were a ton of great stories yesterday. My favorite one, and I was laughing all day yesterday, but the one that made me laugh the most, and I know I've repeated it a couple of times, but when I saw the story that the Democrats are going after McDonald's for price gouging, that was it. I mean, I lost it.
Yeah.
That was it yesterday. I'm like, I will tell you this, and this has been mentioned a lot. The Trump campaign seems to be the campaign of joy right now.
Yeah, they do. It's true.
The campaign of joy, there seems to be no joy in Harrisland.
Well, I don't know. I mean, Liz Cheney brings a lot of joy.
Oh, my God. I mean, Debbie Downer. It's like, but I agree with you. Every time I look at her, it's like, oh, poor woman's about to cry. She's going to cry. There's no
cheer
crying.
her up.
There's no crying in politics.
Come on. Unless you're Hillary.
Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across the USA, we are Red Eye Radio. Good morning. I'm Gary McNamara. He is Eric Harley. All right. Trying to figure out what day it is. 13 days.
Yeah. All right.
13 days. It's all just a big blur.
I know. It really is. You know, what's so weird is that my wife and I both love Halloween. And it's mainly because, you know, it's fall is coming in. We get a break from the extreme heat. It's only 90. It's not 109. And you know, we like this time of year. You know, we like getting outside more, and so Halloween kind of represents that. And then it hit me. It's like, Halloween's next week, and then it goes from Halloween at midnight on Halloween, Thanksgiving. And, you know, but, you know, during a major election year, it's pretty much all election, which is what we have been doing. And, you know, even last week on vacation in my RV, you know, I often take a nap during vacation weeks because flipping your schedule, you know, people who work this shift know. You know, you want a little downtime. I'm hanging out in the RV, you know. I'm sitting there and I'm doing show prep. It's like
I'm doing the same thing.
You know, and I used to kind of, I don't know, feel guilty, but it's what I would be doing anyway. These are the things I'm interested in. This is my hobby. This is what I love doing. And so, you know, doing it in a different setting in that case, but nonetheless, it's like, I've got to check in. It's got to, you know, if you have conviction about your beliefs, and if you're a conservative, you're constantly concerned, and we see that, it's a common thread with our listeners. You're constantly concerned about the not just the current state, but where that's going, because the current state can often can be an indicator as to where it's going. That's why I've said we're at a crossroads. If we don't fix this stuff now, this big stuff, weaponizing the DOJ, and everything, lawfare, everything that's on the table right now, on top of all the problems we have with the border and the economy and inflation. If we don't fix it now, we're never going to fix it, or we won't fix it in our lifetime because we think it's okay to keep doing it. And I think in order to stay on top of things, it really has to be you got to check in with things multiple times a day. And that's what I love about today's age with, social media, thanks to Elon Musk, X now being, at least one way to find great stories and also opinion. And then beyond that, just doing the research and looking into everything that's going on. I've never seen, I don't think we've ever been where we are right now if you put everything into play in terms of what this election cycle is and also what it means. I just don't, we've just never been here before. And to me, there's nothing more fascinating and nothing more important. All the choices, everything that's on our plate right now, everything that's wrong, everything that is broken is a result of choices made.
Yeah. There's no outside forces that are causing the major problems that we have in the United States.
Right.
Even in foreign policy.
Right. Right.
Well, we can't control. Yeah, we can. By our foreign policy, the things that we do as incentives and disincentives to our enemies can change how they act.
And while we can't control, quite unfortunately, massive storms like Helene, we certainly can control our response to them.
Yeah. I will say this, so you mentioned on vacation last week. I wanted to say this when we came back, and so many things going on, but I just get the biggest kick out of it. And I had a conundrum. I was like, how am I supposed to think about this? And you probably saw it too. You probably got some input. Some of our listeners who are absolutely furious at us for taking vacation last week. I mean, livid to the point of, being angry, like, I'm furious at you guys. And that's fascinating to see because you sit there and you say, how do I take this? They're really ticked off at me and Eric, but they're ticked off because they can't hear what we have to say.
Yeah, if I didn't respond to some of you guys, it's because I'm not sure how to.
All right, how can you take vacation? It's like, and they're livid at you.
Yeah.
But they're livid at you because they want more of you.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm thinking, is this what marriage is like?
Yeah, actually, there's a lot of this. My wife and I.
No,
I will say that we're often frustrated at times when we don't get time together. It's like, dang it. Yeah.
Yeah. So no, thank you. I got a great kick out of it, and I love the passion of people and the fact that anyone could actually care. And I'll say this from a personal point of view. I won't speak for you, but that anybody in the world actually cares what I have to say.
Well, it's
like wow, they actually.
Look, we get all kinds of criticism, and we are definitely. I'm humbled by the fact that anybody would listen to me. That's also part of marriage, but
but she doesn't though.
Right. Well, I told you. I think it was yesterday or the other day. I told you over the vacation break. I ran into a meteorologist, one of the meteorologists from WFAA, and they do a really the ABC TV affiliate here in the Dallas area, and they do very, very good work our flagship station, WBAP, partners with them. But just as someone who lives here, they do very good work during tornado season, during severe storm season. And I just wanted to give them a kudos. And we were talking, and it was, I brought up, the fact that we did have somebody criticize us for starting during one of the hurricanes, starting our show with a hurricane segment. And, the person accused us of trying to be the Weather Channel. And, my response to that is, you've got tens of millions of people who are affected. We're doing exactly what we've always done, and we cover the news. And right now, this is the news and the most important news. And these individuals are affected by this immediately, and their lives will change as a result of it. There's no way I'm not going to put my opinion in the back seat, because my opinion right now is secondary and affects none of these individuals at the moment. And that's, those are the things that we look at, and then, to, again, put it in perspective and have people value your opinion, even though sometimes they don't agree with us. They're like, I don't always agree with you, but I understand how you got to your opinion. And that's very humbling. We always appreciate it.
We've always, from our inception, covered breaking news.
Yep.
I mean, that's part of our format of what we actually
not
do.
going to change.
Yeah. All right, you ready for this?
All right.
Let's hear from Tulsi. Tulsi, last night, became a Republican and announced it at the Trump rally.
Yeah.
I was a Democrat for over 20 years. Today's Democrat, thank you. Today's Democrat Party is completely unrecognizable, which points to the clear choice that we have in this election today. When you look at the party of Kamala Harris, for example, she is anti-freedom, she is pro-censorship, she is pro-open borders, and she is pro-war. Without even pretending to care about peace, as President Trump talked about, she has shamelessly embraced the endorsement and support of warmongers like Dick Cheney and Liz Cheney and others who care more about power and feeding the military-industrial complex than they care about you, the American people, and peace. President Trump has pledged to end wars, not start them. And this is why, in the eyes of the Kamala Harris-Dick Cheney Democrat Party, they will do everything possible to try to destroy him. You'll see how they have weaponized the federal government. They have weaponized law enforcement, the Department of Justice. They have done everything possible to try to silence him, to try to remove him from the ballot, so we the people don't even have the choice to who we want to vote for. Why have they done this? Because this man has the courage to take them on and root out the deep rot of corruption in the swamp in Washington. Now, voters have made their voices heard loud and clear, not once, not twice, but 3 times in the last 3 presidential elections, nominating this man to be the Republican nominee for president because of his commitment to these fundamental American principles of freedom and peace and prosperity. USA. Now, to those of you here or those watching at home who are independent-minded people like myself, who love our country and are committed to the Constitution and to freedom, the Democrat Party has no home for people like us. But we do have a home in the Republican Party where we are welcomed with open arms by President Trump and so many of you who love our country. And it is because of my love for our country, and specifically because of the leadership that President Trump has brought to transform the Republican Party and bring it back to the party of the people and the party of peace, that I'm proud to stand here with you today, President Trump, and announce that I'm joining the Republican Party.
Tulsi Gabbard last night. Wow.
I will say this. She is one particular person that I would not want to babysit my grandkids. And the reason being is I don't want them coming home thinking they're better than me and also in better shape than me. What you see here.
That wasn't an insult, by the way. That was a compliment.
No. I just, I don't need my grandson. He's 5 years old. Drop and give me 20. I don't need that from him. What you see is leadership in a Tulsi Gabbard. You don't have any, when we talk about formidable, when they were, talking earlier, we had the audio cut of people saying, look, I wouldn't want Kamala Harris going up against Putin. I would have no problem at all with Tulsi Gabbard standing across from Putin. These are the qualities of an individual. We don't look at the identity politics. We don't look at this or that. We look at the qualifications based on the work that they have done, their demeanor, their conviction, and on every level, Tulsi Gabbard has it. If she says something, she means it. If she takes a position on something, that's where her conviction lies. Those are the qualities we look for. Those are the types of individuals we want as the future of this country. One of my great concerns during the first term of Donald Trump was, who are the individuals that are going to fight and really go to work in the Republican Party for the future of this country? Because I'm looking at the establishment Republicans, and I don't see any fight left in them at all. I didn't see any fight in them for a long, long time. And now, you saw it at the convention. You see it in a Tulsi Gabbard, now officially part of the Republican Party. But that's what I look for. I want to know that the GOP, that the conservative movement has people that have that kind of conviction, that are very straightforward, that are not going to lay down, that are not going to hem-haw when the liberal activist media asks them a question, that leave you with zero questions when you hear them speak. Tulsi Gabbard is right there at the top with a Byron Donalds, Governor DeSantis, J.D. Vance, Ramaswamy, and Donald Trump. Donald Trump is, I think, to be credited to a large extent for that, and I hope this continues and continues to grow.
866-90 Red Eye.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. We got a ton more audio cuts coming up that came out yesterday, and just await now the next couple of weeks, as we had yesterday from the Atlantic and the anonymously sourced stories. One that a soldier's family completely and totally denies and says never happened, but just expect that to continue. Outrageous things about Trump that are anonymously sourced, that the media will just come out like the Atlantic and just absolutely, on the one part of the story, everything is sourced. Nobody's on the record. And the one story that basically said that a soldier who was killed, that he was going to pay told them he'd pay for the funeral. And when he saw the bill, said, I'm not going to pay that kind of money for a blank in Mexican, is completely false. He never paid for the funeral. The Army paid for the funeral. The family said the story is completely and totally false.
The family's attorney says that he lied. The person that wrote the article absolutely lied.
Right. Lied about.
Based on their conversation, the attorney's conversation with them.
But just expect it's not going to have any effect.
No.
Because they keep thinking if we can come out with another outrageous story on Trump, he's already been vetted on all of that.
Right.
By the voter.
They're counting on people being stupid and not doing their homework. They just if they throw out more and more lies, they think it'll just stick. And then November 6th, they come back and go, sorry, I was wrong. I misquoted the person.
Oh, they got blasted early on.
I don't know how you get. I don't know how you get to keep your job.
Well, because they're doing their job.
If that's what they see there. Well, remember,
that is their job.
The editor of BuzzFeed, remember?
Yeah.
This is how we see our so-called journalists going forward.
Look, and it was CBS that led with the story yesterday, an anonymously sourced story. Now, nobody called the family.
Right.
Right. Said, is this true?
Yeah, the family has an attorney,
and
too.
We saw what happened with 60 Minutes.
Right.
Nobody's going to be held responsible for the lies.
Nope.
The only thing you can get them on is if you can get them, and it's impossible to get a political public figure, if you go after them for defamation.
Right.
And that's what they're depending on. We'll just tell lies. They're liberal political activists. They don't give a damn whether they lie in a story. They don't care if they make something up.
Right.
They're happy when they do. And if they get caught, it's like, okay, next.
Right.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
And he's Eric Harley and not Gary McNamara. I'm just laughing here, looking at the video in this the audio cut from Theo Vaughn's podcast where he had J.D. Vance on in the rise of fentanyl in America. Now, before we go into it, you know more about his life, Theo Vaughn, than I did, but he was really into drugs bad, wasn't he?
He's talked very openly about it, and he, I think, doesn't hide it at all. But he's told the story of kind of the worst he's been, but he with drugs and alcohol, and a couple of the stories. One involved a radio appearance that he had to be on, and he was up doing cocaine all night with a cab driver in a taxi cab. He ended up driving the taxi himself, and it's just a crazy story. But he's been very open.
But this audio cut with J.D. Vance is just bowed his head and shaking his head, going like, "I can't believe this is where the interview's gone to." But Theo Vaughn's trying to make a point about fentanyl,
right? Yeah,
and what he's fentanyl in this country, but
in the way that Theo Vaughn makes a point, you kind of have to know his approach to things.
The comedy. But it is. I mean, I did get a chuckle out of it when I heard it. Here we go. Yeah.
I don't know if I'd be sober if this stuff weren't killing people, to be honest with you. I know that's sad to say, but that keeps me out of the risk of it. It just makes it a little scarier. Yeah, that's the thing. It makes it scarier. Yeah. But it's also sad that somebody, I mean, this is ridiculous to say, probably, that somebody can't, you can't even do cocaine in this country anymore, And that seems like a crazy thing to say. And don't say it. Don't say that. But I said it. But yeah. But don't say that anymore.
I'm going to steal that line. That's going to after the election, though, man.
No.
We got to win first.
It's unfortunate.
That's how bad. That's what the Democrats have done. You can't even do a line of coke anymore without worrying about dying.
Well, it's interesting. Again, only Theo Vaughn. If You have to really have been, if you watch or listen to his podcast this past weekend is the name of the podcast over the years, and then follow his stand-up. You understand his appearances on Rogan are some of the funniest moments. You kind of don't know when he's being a comedian or when he's just being Theo, and it's those types of moments. But basically, he's pointing out that, and on a serious note, how fentanyl has really infiltrated all the other drugs. I have a nephew who's a police officer, and they had a young person who died in his town, and they say that it was marijuana laced with fentanyl, and that there really wasn't a whole lot of marijuana in the system and the whole thing. And, these stories are countless of people dying from fentanyl overdoses, and sometimes it's because they bought another drug they didn't know was laced with fentanyl, and that's kind of the point in the absurd way that Theo Vaughn does here. You can't even do cocaine anymore without having to worry about fentanyl, and that's a ridiculous point to make a very serious point. And I think we look at the situation right now on the border, and where are the liberals screaming? In a situation like this, with all the fentanyl overdoses that we have, that number is staggering.
I know.
And it's growing every day. And in the past, you would see rank and file liberals, hey, we need to do something about this. Not that I think that none of them care, but we're just not seeing that massive outrage of, we've got to stop this. And we stop it by closing the border. I guess if you look at the polls, the majority of people want us to do something about a secure border, securing the border. So maybe that's a part of it. But it doesn't feel like you're seeing that kind of outrage from the left based on what the cartels are able to bring across the border and what's happening right now all across America. Nobody is immune from it. Nobody is immune from it. It could happen anywhere. I mean, there was a story about 3 different individuals I believe it was in New York City, that bought cocaine, and it was laced with fentanyl. They ended up getting it from the same dealer. The 3 individuals didn't know each other, but that dealer was the common person with them and sold to each of them. And they end up dead. And, it just seems like everybody, it's like this is happening and nobody is seeing it.
Well,
when there's no real outrage except for what you're seeing on, J.D. Vance brings it up. The conservatives bring it up as a part of the border crisis, and I don't know why it seems the left is silent on all of it.
I think you made a point when you said the Democrats talking about the voters. There may be Democrat voters that are upset about it, but the Democratic Party on the federal level doesn't seem to be concerned about it at all when it comes to the open borders.
Right.
It doesn't seem to be any type of concern whatsoever about what they created.
Right.
What the Biden administration, the Biden-Harris administration
exactly
created. And that, I think, is the... But then again, as I, having my daily conversation with Dad yesterday, and he's really, he asks on a consistent basis now that I brought it up to him. He goes, so you're really telling me, this is my father, 98 and a half years old. Remember, he's gone from he was born and raised before there were antibiotics. People used to worry about polio. You actually used to quarantine people for a bunch of different infectious diseases, individual families. They'd put the sign up. The Ice Man would come to the store, and I'm not talking about the serial killer, the serial killer hitman. The Ice Man would come because they had ice boxes. When I heard my grandmothers always talk about put it in the ice box. We went, it's a refrigerator, not knowing that they actually had an ice box.
It's actually an ice box.
You know, and my dad remembers when my grandfather was putting in, indoor plumbing, into the house. Or I guess it was they had indoor plumbing. They were redoing the indoor plumbing because that was the day, that would have been 1939 because that would have been the day of Orson Welles. My father remembers the day of Orson Welles going in. And, at that point he was like, 13, 14 years old. They said, Dad, the Martians are attacking. Yeah, could you hand me, they are attacking the world. Yeah, okay, fine. Could you hand me the wrench over there?
Right,
like,
yeah, exactly.
My grandfather didn't buy into BS back then.
Right.
And so...
And don't get him started on the Blair Witch Project.
Oh my God! You remember the hype and hoopla over that one, the insanity of that. But I lost my track now.
Well, they were getting. He remembers that day because they were working on the plumbing.
What my father has gone through in all that time, and he's just since I told him. And really, it's been the last couple of weeks. I really explained to him the radical transgender movement.
Right.
And every time he's like, so what you're saying is, you're saying the Democrats are almost fully in favor because they're talking about Prop 1 in New York, my father and my sister, which would open up that. And the polls are out there. The polls show it's going to get 70% approval.
Yeah.
So it shows that the radicals are not just the politicians, it's actually the people,
right,
especially the people in liberal states that want men and women, liberals and Democrats in New York want men in women's private places.
Yep.
The misogyny is now complete. So my father keeps asking me, he goes, now, what you're telling me, and he repeats it because I think he sits and thinks about it and goes, well, Gary's crazy. Come on. There's nobody that really wants men in women's restrooms or men disrobing. Nobody. That doesn't make any type of critical common sense.
Right.
And so he keeps bringing it up. And so they actually want men to play in women's sports? Yeah. Well, that's nuts.
Yeah, right.
We haven't almost. He's not forgetting. It's not like he's 98. He just can't believe it. And so let me clarify it again for the fifth time. Are you actually saying that because the Siena poll came out yesterday, and my sister wanted to know, and I said, the Siena poll shows 69% of New York wants to vote for it.
Mm-hmm.
They want men to compete against women. They want men to disrobe in front of women.
Yeah.
I mean, this is what they want. They believe that a man can biologically become a woman because a man says so. This is how brainwashed, understand how brainwashed these people are and how it's become mainstream in the Democrat Party to the point where every day I got to hear my father go, so one more time again for the 50th time. Yeah. They really want to do this?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And my father's seen everything.
Right.
In 98 and a half years, nobody has put much by you. And this is one where he's just like, well, that doesn't make any sense. One thing that really infuriates him, though, as I've explained to him the last year, has been the identity politics of the Democrats, judging people by groups and not individuals. And he said, Gary, how can they go down that path? I mean, we've been down that path. We lived that path. It was wrong. He goes, we always knew it was wrong. Okay, he said, and I didn't know this before because my father said we didn't come from a racist family because our family's not. And then I learned later on, he never told me why. It's because my grandfather, my dad's father, came from Toronto. And he came from Toronto, I think it was like 1908, 1909, I'm not sure exactly the year. And he came because of the incredible bigotry towards Irish Catholics. They couldn't get a job. It was pure. I mean, it was the kind of racism that, that when you talk about, or you want to call it, religious intolerance, whatever, if you want to compare it to, the Holocaust, which is a different thing than what they were going through there. But that's referred to as racism, as we all know, because Whoopi Goldberg got caught in that one, not understanding the Nazis and what they talked about Jews, and that's where they took religion and compared that to an inferior race. But the fact is, my grandfather felt it to the point that he picked up and came to the United States. because he could not get what. And I thought, really, that happened in Toronto, Canada? I had to go back and look in the history books. By God, it was the truth. There was incredible bigotry towards Irish Catholics. And so there was a sensitivity in my grandparents, which I'm sure they passed down to my father. And, that's how he grew up, because they felt they were victims of horrible intolerance and bigotry.
Right.
And so they understood it. And so that all, made sense. And so my father's just like, how could people in 2024 be going down that path again? And I said, Dad, I view it as envy and jealousy. It's like, okay, these people got something we didn't get, or maybe we can get the government to give us something or whatever. And we can win as a political party if we create victims and oppressors. As you and I've always said, and we may be at that point now, when you see the as we play tonight, the audio cuts from blacks out there with Obama speaking, completely rejecting it, as we've always pushed, which is the only thing to push, is the autonomy of the individual.
Well,
that's
it.
And I said, but Dad, it comes from, what we have seen, how the white Aryan nations worked, how the KKK works. Tell lies to separate people from each other based on skin color, some other physical characteristic, or something that they can't change in them. And, and then you pit one person against another. The only problem is, and you and I said this a decade ago, it's going to stop at some point, because you cannot continue as a political party to divide. And that's what they're doing. They keep dividing.
Well,
more victims, more oppressors,
we
more
said
victims,
this.
more oppressors.
It's because in order to bring people together, in order to win elections, you have to get them together as a group. But when you taught them to leave the group more and more, well, now you're not part of this group, you're part of a new group. And you're a victim for a different reason, which means people who belong to the group you were just in are now the oppressors. You keep dividing and dividing and dividing, you're not bringing them together, which is necessary to win.
And so having that conversation with my father, he goes, well, that's pure insanity. I said, oh, you notice I've been using that word a lot. He goes, oh, yeah, you have been.
Yep.
866-90-RED-I.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-I.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thank you for being here this morning. We'll have more audio cuts coming up here in just a little bit. Look at this headline. After 3 years of allocating $5 billion for EV chargers, the government has completed projects at 17 stations. $5 billion. Liberalism's getting so bad, they can take your money and they can't spend it anymore.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Everywhere across the USA, Eric Harley, Gary McNamara. Hello. Red Eye Radio is what we are. All right, so I'm in the audio cut mood.
Yeah.
Right. There's so many good audio cuts out there. All right.
This would be the time to be in that mood.
Yeah, that is true. Somebody in the last couple of weeks that's really come to the forefront of supporting Trump is Danica Patrick.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
The former race car driver.
Yep.
And this was interesting. This is a video she made about audio will play, about women not wanting to vote for Trump because they don't like his personality, which is a significant demographic that exists out there.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But here it is.
You know, I think maybe one of the reasons why women are having a harder time with the vote is just his personality. I mean, that's the most common answer you hear from people is I just can't vote for him. And I don't think that's a good enough reason. You don't have to go to dinner with him. You just have to like the country that you live in. I am passionate because it feels like voting for Donald Trump is like the vote of reason. It's like the rational, reasonable choice. I feel like most of all, though, what this country could be if he gets into office with all of the amazing, brilliant people that are supporting him, I feel like it could not only make America great again, but make America greater than it's ever been.
There you go.
You know, there are a couple of dynamics that are going on. You look at the people that are in a situation where they're just looking for somebody to say, you know, we're going to get you out of this. We're going to fix things that are broken, and that is pretty common, I think, with just about everybody. Whether they're thinking of Trump or not, they're just looking for somebody to fix everything that's broken. And then there's the other part that looks at it and says, and long term, there needs to be a change. You know, there's I don't know if we're to the point of, you know, I think some families are desperate for that immediate fix. I mean, the word desperate is kind of big, but I think it does apply to some. They're desperate for somebody to fix everything that's broken. But then also people that are greatly concerned about the long-term path of this nation. And I think those two mindsets come together and may, in fact, live in one mind with some individuals, but they come together because I think the potential here is, if that's the way it goes on Election Day, that we have decided as a nation, no, we want Donald Trump. We want the GOP. We're going to put our confidence in the GOP and Donald Trump to fix everything that's broken. I think it is kind of what we have been talking about, and I'm hopeful that this is the case, but I think there is certainly reason to believe and indicators that show that it will be this long-term, let's not ever do that again. Let's look at the things that were, because if you think about COVID and then post-COVID is almost like a second COVID because of the inflation and all of the pain that we have been going through.
Wow, that's a great point. The second COVID is inflation.
Because it affects everybody, right?
What a great way to put it.
It is a pandemic.
Yeah.
We've talked about how inflation, there is no one that is unaffected by inflation. It's just like COVID. It just depends. It varies person to person as to what the effect is.
And you can't stop it.
And you can't stop it. We could have prevented it.
Right. You could have.
You know, the lab was actually Capitol Hill. We could have stopped it there, but they had to leak it.
It's too late to sit here and okay, we need to workshop this and use it as a campaign ad. Well, it's too late now, but man, that's great. I like that.
Well, because it really is a pandemic in that no one is immune.
Right. It affects everybody.
And then you think of yourself you think to yourself, well, how do you build immunity? As with a pandemic, the natural immunity, but the natural immunity against the pandemic of inflation is to not do it again. And I think that when we come out of this, I do believe we will at some point, when we come out of this, because people are asking, they're saying, okay, you and I are greatly concerned about bringing spending into line and it's wow. How does the GOP do that? How do they do it in 4 years? If they get a full 4 years and there's not a change on Capitol Hill at the midterm and all these things that apply. But really, what is the answer with inflation? Prices are not going to come down. So now let's look about price. Let's look at prices where you do and don't have buying power. The only way to counter the effects, the long-term effects of inflation and where prices are now, to bring people above water again, is to expand wealth.
Yeah.
And that has to be done. The basis of that has to be, there is no other answer other than a long-term natural gas and oil drilling and production policy for this nation that tells the world that not only are we in it, we're going to win it. And it's going to be our policy long-term, not just an administrative move.
And that's a way that the Republican Party should go in the future when we talk certain economic things. Quickly, did you see the huge, they think, deposit of lithium in Arkansas?
Yeah.
Right. And so that would help compete against China. And I'm not talking about the advocating of electric vehicles. I'm talking about lithium-ion batteries that are used for everything.
Right.
That we use that are actually used in a competitive marketplace.
Right.
But it's a great point to bring up that the Democrats are trying to, and you hear it. I mean, we're not making this up. If you listen to Kamala Harris, what are you going to do in the economy? We're going to invest in these industries. Well, you don't need to invest in industries. You don't invest in industries. Excuse me, let me make sure I make this clear. To her, invest in industries mean you need to subsidize it with taxpayer dollars. Right. That's not how you grow an economy.
No, it isn't.
You do not grow an economy. I just saw the GM said, double down. Nope. We don't care who's going to be in office. We're going to be fully electric vehicles by 2035.
Yep.
Oh, my God. Pull your stock from GM now.
Right. Yeah.
But, I mean,
exactly.
It's just pure insanity. But the Democrats are still trying to make you convinced this business model works. Let us take taxpayer dollars to subsidize an industry and a product that nobody is asking for. Nobody's asking for an electric vehicle. There is no demand for an electric vehicle. Okay, there's a very tiny demand from people that get the subsidies. We don't know what the demand would be for electric vehicles if the end consumer had to pay the full price. Right. But it would be very, very, very small and not a profitable venture for anyone to go into as a company.
Which means your supply would be almost nothing.
Right.
Pretty much nothing if there's no profit in it.
But what the Democrats are saying is we need to take taxpayer money to put it into businesses that the government thinks can succeed down the road, and a policy that will actually bankrupt companies even if we give them subsidies, because there won't be enough subsidies. We had talked about the absurdity of it, of the electric vehicles, when first off, they lied about it. It's going to create more jobs. And from the beginning, that was fact-checked, saying, no, it takes fewer workers to produce an electric vehicle than a gasoline vehicle.
Right.
Then it got to the point of complete absurdity earlier on this year when the United Auto Workers are demanding that they get part of the government subsidies, too. Part of our contract should be subsidies from the government.
Right.
Well, finally, the union workers woke up, and and obviously you had some of the union leaders, not all, but some, say, well, you know something? You're right. If the company can't make a damn profit, there is no union.
Exactly.
And so you don't have to be rah union just before profitable companies where unions exist already,
right.
And that will make our position stronger.
Right.
Well, duh!
Right.
And that's where we are. And so Republicans are saying, no, we need to create more businesses. When you sit there and say, as the Biden did, killed tens of thousands of union jobs with the Keystone Pipeline for no reason at all except imagery.
Right.
And the union's leaders went, we think this is a good idea. What a great idea. Let's kill the union jobs. And you ought to figure out, dummies. I'm not talking to our audience. You need to figure out, though, dummies, that when you have the policy of an administration which is to get rid of manufacturing because it causes, in their opinion, global warming gases and climate change. Well, then you got to kill all manufacturing, because it doesn't matter what type of manufacturing you do. It's going to produce carbon-based gases, which are going to go into the atmosphere.
Right.
And so it's just so dumb, but it's the private sector that will save us, because it's a creation of wealth and the expansion of wealth, not the creation of government programs and government subsidies to create companies that cannot make a profit because they're producing a product that the public doesn't want because it's either too expensive or not as reliable as the product that they have right now.
Right.
This is so simple. It's so, I feel like to even have to explain it, we're going back to kindergarten. I mean, our audience knows it, but I mean, you got to explain it to the people that support this stuff, because they're completely clueless. They don't know what's going on.
It's because, we go through our day, how does electricity work? I don't know. I turn that wall switch on. It's all of these things matter at the basis of who we are as a nation, what our economy is. From the beginning, it's about getting things out of the ground. It's about taking something that in the ground has no value or demand, but you bring it above ground and process it, and instantly it has a demand globally. That's the expansion of wealth, and you don't have to actually do that job specifically in order to benefit from that expansion of wealth. As a nation, we all benefit when we have that, if we had that long-term energy policy in play. That is the only way to remedy this massive jump in prices as a result of inflation. They can say, well, no, inflation's coming down. The rate of inflation's coming down. But what that means is that at best, if we hit the target, it's still going to go up 2% from where it is now.
Yeah, based on the compounding
year
of
after
inflation.
year. That is best case scenario. That's what they're hoping to get done. So prices aren't going to come down. We're not going to see deflation. So the only remedy is to expand buying power of American families. You have to expand wealth, and you have to do it in a big way.
And Danica Patrick was relating that as saying, because everything we've talked about is common sense reason. She goes, Trump is the candidate of reason and common sense. And it's a great point that she made. Now, I will admit, when I saw her, I looked at you, when I was watching the video, I looked at you and said, I don't like her look. What don't I like about it? What's different? She's in a dress. I mean, it's a nice dress and everything else, and her hair is longer than I've seen it. And I'm like, what is it? I'm like, oh, she's not in a racing suit.
She doesn't have a sponsor patch on her dress.
Exactly. That's what I'm like, I'm so used to seeing her that way. And it's like, in a dress? Who's this? It's like,
if that happens, that'll be a new take. I want to thank everybody at Lowe's for making everything come together for today. And wait a minute, what? Why is she wearing a patch?
That'd be interesting. I'd like to see
that kind of sponsorship.
Forget about tattoos.
Right.
Well, advertising tattoos. That would be interesting. When you're a mega select, are they doing that already?
Right.
Does that happen?
No,
already?
I think there have been a couple where they, they'll like on a dare publicity thing. Hey, if you get this tattoo with our brand, I don't know what you get. Free satellite TV for life, and then everybody cuts the cable. Oh, no! It's like the old Mitch Hedberg thing, though, when he talked about racing, NASCAR. Man, that guy sure likes Tide.
866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at J.J. Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on speed and space management. When driving, you need to manage the space around your vehicle so that there's enough space to allow you to adjust when traffic conditions change. The space ahead of your vehicle is the most important and one of the easiest to monitor and adjust as needed. One rule of thumb is to allow at least 1 second for each 10 feet of vehicle length at speeds below 40 miles per hour. At greater speeds, add an additional second. It's impossible to keep other drivers from tailgating you, but there are some things you can do to make it safer, such as increasing your following distance, avoiding quick lane changes, and slowing down. There are also several things you should do to ensure that there is plenty of space between the side of your vehicle and other vehicles. Don't hug the center line, avoid hugging the right side of the road, and avoid traveling alongside other vehicles in strong winds, especially crosswinds. This tip was brought to you by J.J. Keller and Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning.
Hello.
Well, when we look at where the polls are going, and we say, and it's not just us saying, it's even a Democrat political analyst looking at it, Mark Halprin, for example, and saying, if it continues to go where it's going right now, Trump wins. If it stays the same way it's going right now with early voting, Trump wins, and we'll know it by Election Day.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, wow, okay, that's pretty bold, but that shows you how different the indicators are from 2020 here, and even 2016, where they say that from 2016, the polls started moving for Trump earlier than they did in 2016 towards Trump. And then we talk about, all right, but, you see the way that they're reacting in certain ways. What are they covering? The fact that Harris is out all the time now, when she wasn't out at all, means panic. What we didn't work. We got to do something different. They're panicking, trying to figure out what to do. We'll play the audio cut coming up following the bottom of the hour. That is CNN talking about the fact that, well, yeah, they're basically throwing Mark Cuban out there to talk economics because they don't want Kamala Harris out there because she might make a mistake in the last 2 weeks. I'm like, oh, my God. Yeah. And by the way, you see Cuban trying to explain illegal or the what they did at the border. Oh, my God. He's horrible. I mean, just horrible. Well, they tried to do too much. They were like too kind or something like that. It was just ridiculous.
Well, he's just become this weird rapid-fire excuse machine.
Yeah. And so it's like, well, they're going to use Obama. Obama's going to be out there, and you're going to have Mark Cuban out there, but they really don't, and she's got to be out there, but they're really afraid to put her in any situation where she may actually tell you what she's going to do. But there's another thing. And we're going to play it for you coming up following the bottom of the hour. And it's an ad that's running in Wisconsin. And this is absolute, I guess you could call it evidence, right?
Yeah,
this is
I think so.
absolute evidence that they believe they're losing Wisconsin.
Yep.
And it's a political ad that they're running.
You don't pour this much money into something like this unless you're panicking.
It also shows that their campaign that they did has alienated some on the far left.
Yeah.
You'll want to hear this coming up next.
The show that never stops. Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. We got to stop the show sometime. We just continued talking about different issues and stuff
right?
during the break. It was like we were talking on the microphone, then we're talking, and all of a sudden the music, and we're back on again. It's like the other day we went on vacation last week. When I came back after I was done Monday's show, I went home. I could hardly talk. My throat was gone.
Yeah.
Luckily, it recuperated very quickly.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, wow. It really is this show is a workout on your throat. I got to talk more on vacation. But here we go. Here's the ad that the Harris campaign is running in Milwaukee. If you're wondering, and this may help you go, oh, okay, then, wow, they really are in trouble in these swing states. Are these polls really accurate? We think the same thing. It looks like, everything's going in Trump's direction.
Right.
But you just don't know. I got fooled in 1994.
Yeah.
I didn't get fooled. I think everybody got
You just
fooled.
did, yeah.
I didn't
nobody saw
expect
it coming.
Right. It wasn't well, I didn't come out and say, this is the way it's going to happen. I didn't know. I figured the Democrats, were going to do a lot better, and they did not in 94.
Right.
Based on just the narrative and things that were talked. Now, social media didn't exist at that time, but just, with Clinton, into his first term and everything else, he just had no idea what 94 was going to be, and boom.
Mm-hmm.
But this is great evidence that they are worried like crazy about two things. Number one, that they can't win Wisconsin.
Right.
And number two, that they are, because of the positions she has taken or not taken or been confusing on, she believes she's losing the far left.
Yeah. Yeah.
That she is losing the far left because of everything that you've seen out there for her, like I said, changing all the positions where, okay, well, you're Kamaga now. And I think that
Exactly.
impacted people on the left where they went, whoa. And I think, too, the Liz Cheney thing. I really think it's like, what do you and we talk about this politically, not as to who we want for president, but just as a political move. It was horrible to bring Liz Cheney on. The far left's going, what the hell, what do you got Cheney on for?
And I think the straw on that one is her father, too.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
right.
Dick Cheney was the big evil at one point.
And so they don't say much, but they're worried about the vote. And this is the evidence. In Wisconsin, Harris is now running ads against third-party candidate Jill Stein 2 weeks before the election. Here we go.
You can tell a lot about a person by the company they keep. Like Jill Stein. Stein isn't sorry about swinging the 2016 election to Trump. And now she's being helped by MAGA allies and Trump's former lawyer. Longtime Klan leader David Duke endorsed her. And like Trump, she's cozied up to Vladimir Putin. Jill Stein. Look at her friends. Because a vote for Stein is a vote for Trump. Just ask Putin.
Jill Stein, I like her very much.
I'm Kamala Harris, and I approve this message.
That's the evidence right there.
They are worried. They spent a lot of money on Jill Stein. That tells you their internals are coming in really bad.
And it's, by the way, it's running, I guess, in Milwaukee where you have a huge bastion of liberals.
Yeah.
Now, it's not running, for example, in the rural areas.
I think that, again, I go back to what's happening, it seems like, it feels like that the Democratic Party, the official party, handed Harris the keys saying, lock up when you're done. Because it seems like that everybody has just kind of left her out there and pushed her raft out into the deep waters going, hey, good luck. The way it's being approached.
I like the analogy.
It really feels, because when you see Trump, you see the future of the Republican Party out there on the road with him. You see that, and you see his surrogates, and they're really strong. All of her surrogates are making excuses. That's it's a defensive posture. Okay, defensive posturing is a tell all the time, every time. It tells you that person is worried about whatever threat it is, in this case, the threat of losing to Donald Trump, and they're seeing that. That ad right there is a desperate move, going after Jill Stein. The reason they have to do it is because, like you said, all of the things that they brought in have spoiled the liberals on her. Too many liberals on her. And they're looking at it going, well, we'll just go Jill Stein. I'm not going to vote for Donald Trump. I am going to vote, and I'm going to vote Jill Stein. And we've always looked at the idea of spoilers, and it's very interesting to look at that dynamic in any election, who the spoiler might be. Well, if it hadn't been for, well, we always said, you campaign like you're 20 points behind. The point being is, if you're on the right message, if you have the right solutions, and you're getting it out there and you're campaigning and you got the ground game and everything's running on all cylinders, then the goal is to be 5 points ahead. You want to make up that ground. You really want to convince the people in a way that gives no power to a spoiler. And they're desperate right now. Their internals are showing exactly what I suspected they have been showing. And it's not just voter apathy, but it's also the part of the liberal base that is done with Harris not owning her liberalism, changing her positions, lying to sound more like Donald Trump on key positions, bringing in the Cheney family, and all of these things that don't match up to their standards as liberals. And Jill Stein is a constant. I mean, she's not going to win, but people look at that and say, that's where I'm going to put my vote. I'm not going to stay home, but I'm not going to vote for Donald Trump, but I'm darn sure not going to vote for her.
Well, where she blew it, and this is the problem, is the fact that Biden, who ran as I'm going to be a moderate and bring stability, was the complete opposite.
Mm-hmm.
So the far left was actually happy with what he did. They were okay. The far left was okay with the open borders. They were okay with the concept of defund the police. They were okay with every radical position that Biden held, and even the consequences of it. You know, for example, big spending, inflation. They were fine with it. And they had a problem the last year when they realized, okay, he did these things, but he now can't sell them after the consequences have come out. So it can't be our ideas.
Right.
It's got to be the person. So get another person to sell those same ideas and somebody that we can mold and influence heavily when she gets in.
Right.
Well, then as soon as she is appointed by the DNC as a Democratic nominee, in the first couple of weeks, she completely flip-flops on all the major issues. We're to the point where everybody's mocking her everywhere that she's become Donald Trump. Now, we know she hasn't, but the fact is the public has picked up on it. That has hurt her. Then she's tried to flip on all the major issues. For example, she did on fracking the other day. I told my dad that yesterday. Yeah, Dad, what she says is the campaign now saying that she doesn't want to ban fracking. There will just be no expansion in the development of oil and natural gas.
Right.
He goes, well, that doesn't make sense. I go, we know it's not supposed to. They're just, they're throwing out this confusion, and the far left, to this point now, they're looking at it and going, she's going to lose.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we don't like what she did. And I really do believe that bringing the Cheneys into it a couple of weeks ago and then bringing Dick Cheney into it just killed support on the far left.
Yeah.
And so now they're trying to go, okay, what do we do? All right, let's try to say that Jill Stein got the endorsement of David Duke. Was that true? Did David Duke endorse her? and what was the reason? I didn't even see that story.
Right.
I just saw that in the ad now. I'm like, wait a minute, where'd that come from? So that's how you know. Here's another reason you know. And we have talked about, for example, the 4 senators, including Bob Casey of Pennsylvania, that is now using Trump in their ads as a positive, that they agreed with Trump or Trump agreed with them, but they're using his name in the ads. And this is something that was put together by the Trump campaign on Senator Bob Casey of Pennsylvania. But this is another reason you know that what we're being told about the polls and the polls that we see, they believe, because otherwise they wouldn't be. Remember, all these senators that are now using Trump in their ads to say, hey, I agreed with Trump on this. I agreed with Trump. Hey, what are you talking? I agree. Every one of them voted to impeach Trump. All right, and then this is the ad put together by the Trump campaign for Casey in Pennsylvania.
There's a threat to our democracy. Some might argue that the threat is even greater today.
And he sided with Trump to end NAFTA and put tariffs on China to stop them from cheating.
It's a threat to our democracy. Some might argue that the threat is even greater today.
And he sided with Trump to end NAFTA and put tariffs on China to stop them from cheating.
Both of those audio cuts from October.
Sided with Trump.
Yes. But at the same time, calling him...
Not
right.
worked with the other side, not engaged in bipartisanship, sided with Trump.
Yes. And that shows you, because I believe the earlier one was earlier in the month, when he said Trump is a threat to our democracy. And now, just a couple of weeks later, I sided with President Trump.
That's what the image they're trying to portray there is standing next to Trump.
To him. I know.
That the reason we say this is because I guess maybe we need to repeat this part. They research the daylights out of how they're going to word an ad. It would probably fry your brain as to how much goes in to choosing the right words. We go back to Claire McCaskill and her ad. She's not one of those crazy Democrats. That came back in their call out. Those words came back in their call out. And that when she was running, she didn't win. But when she was running, she wanted to make sure she conveyed that message with a couple of voiceover actors in that ad, and they used those words. Sided with Trump. They phrased it deliberately that way because they believe that's their best bet. That is mind-blowing as to where it is.
That's why this is an election I'm savoring, because there will be, well, maybe I'm speaking too soon, but I don't think we're ever going to see anything like an election with all the different variables here, all the different confluences that have come, that have come together in this election. When I think about it, I'm like, can you believe it? Can you believe Trump is in the lead in the polls and the Democrats are panicking after everything that they've thrown at him? It's unbelievable. This is absolute, some of the most important political history of the United States, presidential political history we're going through right now. Will be history. It isn't right now history. But
yeah, and when people look back on it, if you do a full dissection of this, an autopsy of the 2024 election would be fascinating on every level.
100 years from now, you'll be able to get a doctorate in the Trump years, and it will be a doctorate because it'll take you 7 years to go through everything.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, fascinating all day.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up, more audio cuts. It's been audio cut day.
Yeah.
It's all I do. I wake up and I just go, this is hilarious. Oh, wow, this is really impactful. And every audio cut we've had so far today, and this may be it between now and election. Just come in every day.
Yeah, right.
All right, what's the random audio cut of the day? And I will say this because we have more coming up. The Hispanic vote. That's something that CNN was on yesterday. Mm-hmm. But we talked about MSNBC talking to blacks yesterday, and to me, it was incredible because one of the things that we've talked about all the time is identity politics and how wrong and evil that is, judging people by groups and not individuals. And what you're seeing out there, even MSNBC in their interviews with blacks is with talking about Obama. Don't condescend us. Don't say that we are, that we are somehow obligated and must be loyal to you because of our skin color.
Right.
Man, people learning autonomy is the best thing ever.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.